Yeah, not straight after the day after the grand final anyway. So
Now, the grand final's done, and I think it's sort of after that, the next week or two, it sort of starts setting in that a lot of key players are sort of leaving, and a lot of players that have had an impact at the club for obviously over the last probably 2, 3 years, and that starts setting in, I think, and you start is was there a bit of a concern from your point of view about what's coming this year at that time, or were you sort of excited thinking we're going to get him next year?
yeah, well, going back to you, just briefly going back to your previous question, yeah, you probably do expect Parramatta to be a top four side year to year. Um, you're obviously going to have your standout side every year, which is probably the last 3, 4 years has been Penrith. Um, everyone always says Melbourne. You don't know what Melbourne's going to do. We saw last year they finished fifth, so um, people say the Roosters as well, but you never know what they're going to do as well, or what's going to happen to them. As a couple of years ago when they got all those injuries, but they still made finals. So yeah, I think Parramatta should be a top four side year to year. I mean, they've got the players on paper. To this question, was I disappointed about the players leaving um, or concerned? Look, I probably was disappointed about Papali'i leaving, um, but I could probably understand why he left. And we probably know it was probably a we don't. Oh, I don't know for definitely what it was, but it was probably a money issue.
Mm.
He was probably getting a lot more money from the Tigers as what Parramatta were going to offer him. Um, and fans get disappointed about players leaving clubs for more money. Well, they don't really have a lot of time in the game to make money, so they've got to look after themselves. And also, too, clubs have got to watch out how much money they spend on players as well.
Yeah.
I think that was probably Parramatta's downfall a few years ago, where we did pay a lot of overs for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Going back, we've seen the Anthony Watmos, the Chris Sandow's,
Foreign.
um, foreign. So over those years, we've seen that happen. But I think we've cleaned that up a lot now. I think we're probably pretty good with our salary cap in terms of not paying those overs. So I could see why he left. I could see why Ray Stone left. He was looking for an opportunity to play consistent first grade. Um, New Queensland life for his family, I guess, as well. Murata Niokore, he wanted probably to go back to New Zealand, where he's from. So, I mean, you can't blame that. And I think I heard him say in an interview as well that he might have said that to Brad last year or the year before or something, that one day he wants to go back there.
Yeah.
So an opportunity came up for him. Reed Marnie's a strange one, a different one. Really disappointed that he left.
Mhm.
Considering that he came from the Bulldogs, who didn't want him, and he came to Parramatta. We made him what he was, and again, it was probably a money issue. I don't know how much difference it was in terms of what the Bulldogs and Parramatta were offering, but um, that one was probably the most disappointing one.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him stay, and the fact that he could stay with Dylan and you know Dylan, Mitch, or Mitch is probably a little bit older now, but sort of that younger brigade. Stay with those. So he was probably the most disappointing one, but you know, at the end of the day, um, Parramatta is a development club, so uh, they will develop players that are worth for other clubs to go chasing for
Mm.
and want. So Yeah, yeah. I use probably Jack Murchie as an example, one of our new signings. He's come across from the New Zealand Warriors. Pretty good, solid first grader. He does his job, does his tackles, does his job. Um, but he's not a superstar. And that was the same as Papali'i when he turned up as well. He was a fringe first grade. Well, he played first grade over at the Warriors, but wasn't a superstar as well.
Mm.
He's come over to Parramatta, had great two cracking years, um, and yeah, the Tigers offered him a lot of money. So yeah, we are a development club and develop players into what they are, and it just shows you that the amount of rep players that we had in the World Cup, um, the amount of state of origin players that we've had over the last few years as well. So look, I think the replacements will probably be. We've lost a bit of talent, but I think the replacements are, reasonably just as good.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that. And I think from my point of view, I feel like as a Para fan, you'd be in this situation. If this situation was probably 3 years ago, you'd be a lot more worried than you are now because for mine, BA or Brad Arthur, if anyone knows the nickname, has established himself for mine as one of those coaches that can develop and bring out the best in players now, where maybe a few years ago he was still learning that trade and hadn't had the runs on the board. But now, with a few years in a row of finals footy and always being around sort of that top four position and beating those big teams each year when it's needed, like Penrith and the Storm in the round games, he's sort of got his name out there now for mine as one of those top sort of echelon coaches in the game. And I don't think Parramatta as a club have sort of had that leadership for quite some time. You probably heard the last one was Brian Smith, and maybe Daniel Anderson for that little patch there in '09 when he was able to control everything, really. Brad Arthur's come on and he's finally established himself for mine as that real top grade coach who, as you said with Murchie, he done the same as Papali'i. No one knew, everyone at the time, I remember when we signed Papali'i, why
Yeah,
are they signing Papali'i? What's this about? After that first game against the Broncos a couple of years ago, everyone was saying this is the best player we've ever signed. He's a freak. So that's the sort of coach I think now Brad Arthur is, and I think that's what made it so hard for players like him and Marnie to leave. I know Marnie did it a lot earlier than Pablo, but Pablo's one carried on for the whole year basically, and
yeah,
I think he was told by the end, unfortunately, you just have to go. Like money wise, we can't go anywhere near what you're needing. And I don't think he wanted to go. I don't think he might come out after his post career and we'll hear the proper story. But as sort of looking on the outside, looking in, I don't think he wanted to go. I think that was a really tough decision for him to make. And same as Marnie. Like Marnie's the type of player you
yeah,
see his passion on the field and how many times he'll pump his chest and things like that. He must have it would have killed him. I know the money is there and they need to look after themselves, but you just feel like those sorts of players, it kills them. That it's their last thing they want to do.
yeah. And then making a grand final makes it even harder to
Yeah.
lose because you get so close, and then you can get there. You want to have another crack at getting there, but if you leave, you may not get that other crack.
Well, Penrith's a prime example of that. They lost their first grand final 3 years ago, and then they came back and now they've won two. You sort of I don't think you necessarily have to, but if you do lose one as a playing group, they probably sat there, the players that were staying, going, "This is us next year." Like, watch the celebrations, let it eat into you and fire you up because this is what we need to make sure is happening next year. But it's us, and they're watching us next year. So, as a player, I reckon it'd be hard to watch now you're not part of that in a way because it was like you started this because Parramatta have been doing this and building for this, as you'd know, for at least 2 to 3
yeah,
years. I feel like this has been
yeah,
in the pipeline to do, and to not be there to finish it, I feel like would burn a little bit. So, in terms of saying that, what's your expectations for this year for 2023? There is, I guess, slight concern with some players leaving, as we've just discussed, but there has been some talent signed and brought into the club in similar positions that we've had in the past, where Where's your expectation this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, oh, definitely finals. That's the expectation. But as we said before, I'd probably say top four is the expectation. Um, we can, as you said, we can beat those big teams during the regular season. Penrith and Melbourne, and we've beaten the Roosters before as well. We just need to have consistency. I think. Like we wouldn't have scraped into the Parramatta wouldn't have scraped into the top four last year if they beat the Bulldogs, if they
Hmm.
beat the Tigers.
Yeah,
The Rabbitohs loss at Accor was another terrible loss. I think that was Latrell's return game. I think. Um,
yeah,
so those three losses, that they probably really hurt us and probably shouldn't have scraped into the top four. So to this year, yeah, we've got some um, exciting recruits. I mean, a lot of people um, are bagging Josh Hodgson as a signing um, because of his age and the fact that he hasn't played for probably 18 months, something like that,
yeah,
or since round one last year.
yeah. Played
Um,
about 30 minutes or something. So
yeah, so but I mean, I see him replacing Reed as a good thing because he's got the experience. He's played internationals.
mm,
He's played in a grand final. Um, a few years ago it was probably Cameron Smith number one, and then Josh Hodgson number two is the
yeah,
best hookers in the game. So, and having 18 months out of the game, potentially that could further his career. Maybe might make him fresher. Um,
he's
you
looking
don't know.
strong.
I
He's
think well,
definitely looking strong.
yeah, I think he's come out and said that those photos were photoshopped, but geez, there's the guns on him.
Yeah.
He was
No, I've seen other
challenging
photos,
Maddo.
and I don't think you can Photoshop that many times because I've seen others, and he definitely looks like he's been putting in the work, which I think is a good lead into the next question for you, and that's a player to look out for this year, and it could be for many reasons. It could be a young gun that you like the look of coming through the grades, or it could be an established star that you feel like this is their year to really stand up for. Which player do you feel like is the player to look out for?
Okay, so we all saw Dylan Brown have a breakout year last year. Sean Lane had an amazing season last year. I think they'll probably be still the same and consistent in their performances. Um, I think the one person that everyone's been talking about, and it's probably been a great signing, is Jermaine Hopgood.
Mm,
Um, Everyone's got huge raps on him. He's come from Penrith, so he's come from that Penrith system. He was the New South Wales Cup Player of the Year last year, player in the grand final in the uh, what do they call it, the Interstate Challenge. Um,
Big signing. I know for a fact Penrith didn't want to lose him, so it's a
yeah,
it's a big signing.
yeah, definitely. He's playing in the Indigenous game this weekend, so um, and he'll probably get with Ryan Madison suspended for 3 weeks. He'll probably get that probably his spot for 3 weeks. Um, so yeah, really looking forward to seeing him play, um, and probably also too probably they were both out last year with injury, but probably Sean Russell and Hayes Dunster as well, just to see how they had major injuries last year, just to see how they can return um, back to the top grade. So it'll be exciting to see how they go as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, if I gave you $100 and gamble responsibly, please, everyone out there that listen to this, do not hold us to this. I want you to let me know where Paris finishing the regular season, and then if it includes finals, where they go finals wise. What's your head and heart? So I mean, your heart probably wants to say something that your head doesn't want to say, or it could be for once both together. Where are we at?
Ah, geez. I mean, that's always such a hard question because everyone wants to win the comp
Yeah,
every year.
they're going to win
Whether
you money off $100 though.
okay, so to win 100, we'll put 100 bet on. Look, I think a realistic probably position is probably fifth.
Okay.
I'd say. Um, Again, I think there's a few teams that might just be a little bit higher than Parramatta, so they're going to have to do it tough to get into that four. So maybe fifth. We got over the week to hoodoo last year of finals. Um, Look, I think it's such a tough competition. I think a prelim final would probably be a realistic
Yeah.
goal, I guess. Just been such a tough competition and so many teams out there that can actually win it. So I think finish fifth, get to the prelim final, and then
Anything can happen.
that's right, go
We
from
beat
there.
the Cowboys up in Townsville and we were told there was no chance of that happening. So you don't know. A couple of fan questions have come in now just to sort of
This will
put
be
an ending
interesting.
to the video and be interesting how we go. I think there's a couple that are like to have a bit of a laugh, but there are also some very, very good questions in here. So
Okay,
the
no
first
worries.
one, when will we see Parra win the comp? And I know you want to say this year. When do you reckon we're going to see the mighty Parra Warriors win
Uh,
the comp?
yeah, look, it will be in the next 4 years.
Okay. I
How's
like
that?
that one. Yeah, I
Like, I
like
mean,
that.
obviously, I'm going to say it this year, but it'll be in the next 4 years.
Now, the next question, it's something that's sort of dragged on now, and it is, and I can personally say it, it's starting to become a bit annoying in a way. When will Moses re-sign? And the other parts of this question, which I've sort of added on, I won't let the viewer take credit for this one. Do you actually want to keep him? And what I mean by this is that I know a lot of fans out there for different clubs and that when this happens, it can actually turn a bit negative for the player and it can actually start to lead the fan group to saying, we don't want him anymore. Like, just go then. If you're obviously not passionate enough about the club and you're dragging this on, then don't worry. I know at the moment there's all the CBA going on. So there could be a legit reason why it is taking a little bit longer to finalize salary caps, things like that. But do you want to keep Moses? And if so, if not, why?
Well, I think if we're going to win the comp in the next 4 years, we need to keep him.
Yeah.
Just with that combination that he has with Dylan Brown. Um, and I think now that we've also re-signed Gutho for a few more years, Hodgson for a couple of years, but we've also got RCG and Junior Paolo as well for extended period of time, and just the other day with Penasini as well. So we're slowly keeping the nucleus of the team, and Dylan Brown's on that strange 9 year contract or 8 year
Yeah.
contract, whatever it is. So and
We need a
it'd be
new
good.
episode to go through that because that takes some time to understand.
Yeah. So yes, I would keep him for that reason. Um, has he signed already? I've been telling people that, and don't quote me on this. I don't know, but I've been telling people that I reckon he's actually already signed,
Okay.
um, and they're just waiting for the right moment to announce it. You're right. There is a lot of player unrest at the moment, and they're trying to sort out that player agreement with the NRL. So maybe that might have a little bit to do with it. Although we have just recently seen, as I said, Will Penasini sign, Dylan
Mm.
Brown sign as well. So if those two have signed, well then, yeah, has Mitch signed? I think he has, and we all saw with Dylan Brown's signing, the same sort of questions. When is he going to sign? Is he going to sign? All this and that, um, and then he did sign, and we knew about it. I think he has signed, and probably wait for the right moment, whether that's in 3 weeks' time at Combank Stadium, round one, maybe with the world watching. Who knows?
Look out. He's already made that his home scoring in the corner the first week there. So he loves the place. It might be the case. They might want to do a little, or maybe a pre-season gift to the fans out there that are eagerly
Yeah,
waiting for this news.
yeah,
I know a lot are, and um, I just as a Parra fan, you just hope it hurries up and does get solved. Either way, so that way the club can move on and look for the next target, or they can build. And he's obviously the player they want to build around with Dill Brown in the halves as well. Last fan question for you, and this is a bit of a funny one. I reckon you can probably guess who this is from. Do you wear Parra merch every day?
yeah, I probably do know who sent that one in through, and well, the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I do. As I said before, even living in Penrith, I'll wear it around, and it's probably because I've got so much of it. To be honest, I don't really have much anything else to wear, but yeah, that's it's either Parramatta stuff or it's probably Cold Chisel shirt or ACDC or something like that. The band shirts, but yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, no, definitely wear Parramatta stuff. Pretty much everywhere. You got to be loud and proud of your team, especially in Penrith. And yeah, thank you, Amanda, for sending that through.
I was going to say the one who gave you the question knows the answer without even asking. So I think she just wanted everyone out there to know that you do and look out. So I think it's great to be passionate though, and I think everyone knows as well now. They've seen you around and you've done all your morning TV shows, and as I said, celebrity status, which you don't want to admit to, but yeah, massively. I think for you you're a passionate fan, which is great to see, but you're also not biased. You're also very honest with everything that you see. And I think I love that about the fans that are like that. And I think there's a realism there that you really appreciate. And I think a lot of fans appreciate. And I think that's why you can do things like walk around, say, Penrith in your Parra gear. And you do probably cop a little bit at times, but you'll probably get respected as well because a lot of the community, as I said, do know you and know what you stand for, and it's great to see. So I really appreciate out there that what you do and the fact that even after a grand final loss, the next day you're in your Parra gear.
Yeah, that's it. Well, no, thank you for that, Joel. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's actually quite funny. My favourite game of the year is Penrith and Parramatta at Penrith, and when you're walking home from the ground and you're in your Parramatta stuff and you get
Because yeah,
heckled by Penrith fans, saying, "Oh, yeah, go back to Parramatta, go away, go back to Parramatta." It's funny you just point out, oh, I only live 5 minutes away, so like, oh, what are you wearing that crap for? It's like, oh, well, what are you wearing that crap for?
yeah.
But yeah, so Amanda actually has pointed out a few older Parramatta supporters in Penrith and in Parramatta gear everywhere they go. There's actually a Parramatta car that goes around Penrith. It's in blue and gold and it's got jerseys over the top of the seats and
Oh,
she reckons that's going to be me and when I'm old and
I'm
grey.
surprised it's not you already. I'm surprised there's nothing that isn't Parra merchandised around your place or your cars. So now, the last thing we do on this new podcast that we do, a new series, I'm going to allow you to ask me one question. So that way, anything that you want to know or anything
Hmm.
you're allowed to ask, and I get out there. So let you start, let you fire away.
I'm just trying to think of what I asked you on the podcast a few months ago,
You
and
had a
hope I
few
don't, and
a few
hope I don't
guests.
ask that one again. Um, okay. Uh, oh, jeez, put me on the spot with that one.
I'll put you on the spot with this one. It's a
So,
good way to
of you personally, or rugby league
anything,
wise, or
anything.
okay. Um, okay. So you've got an open checkbook. Don't worry about a salary cap.
Yep.
Who is the one player, past or present, that you signed for Parramatta and why?
Jonathan Thurston comes to mind straight away. And I think just because and this is nothing on Moses. If he does resign, I love him for it. Fantastic. But I feel like maybe in the last year or two, he wasn't quite there mentally. And I think his game got away from him a little bit. And I think has cost us at times just because and we've heard the players say it, he's so big on this playing group, his attitude and in game awareness impacts the team so much. Where I think if we had, say, Thurston, even last year, the year before, I think we'd go ahead and win the comp personally. And I feel like if he had someone like Thurston who just controls things so well around the Gutho and Dills Brown, all he has to do then is worry about running really and putting Lane in holes, which he does easily anyway.
Yep.
Imagine Thurston being on there in his prime, being able to just run the show. I feel like that's the missing ingredient because we've got the forward pack. We've had the forward pack now for a
Yep.
number of years. And any playmaker, and Thurston said it in plenty of podcasts he talks about, he says as long as you got the forwards, you can do the rest. You can have no name backs, to be honest. And I think we've seen Bennett in the past do that. He'll have no name back line and just have big forwards that know what to do. And the halves are your main money makers. And I think that's Parramatta. I think at one stage as well, and I think Thurston's come out and said this, we were trying to sign him. And we actually got kind of close to getting him at one stage, but he thought, no, I'll stay with the Cowboys. But yeah, for mine, it's definitely Jonathan Thurston.
He must have thought that when he drove down the M4 to Penrith, because I think he checked them out as well. So maybe he was Parramatta, Penrith. But yeah, no, good answer. I always say would have loved to have seen Brad Fittler at
Yeah,
Parramatta. There
yeah.
was talk of that one day as well, but and
Geez,
then
that
just
would.
recently there was Quade Cooper coming out and saying he might have been at Parramatta. So
Yeah, well, I think if Fittler plays in 01, I think there's no questions asked. We win the comp, so that's sort of a bit of a kick in the guts as you just think of those moments, and it is
that's
what it
it.
is. I think there, Troy. I think that's a perfect way to end this first episode of this new series that we've got, really for the fans. And as I said, and I'll say it again, really appreciate you coming on and talking about not just your podcast, but also your love for your club, being the Parramatta Eels, and not being shy to talk about it and show your passion, which I think this game is all about. It's all about your passion and your Parramatta colours and your team's colours. It's really good to see. I'll let you one more go and really plug your podcasts and plug your sponsors as well, which I know do a great job for your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me on your show. Really appreciate it. And yeah, no, it's, as I said before, it's a great job that you're doing as well, talking to the fans of rugby league, because without the fans, you don't have a game. Um, so yeah, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it. The Paracave podcast comes out on Monday mornings, usually at 6 o'clock. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Um, so yeah, it ranges from ex-players, hoping to get some current players on there, um, and fans of rugby league. Hopefully some high profile fans of rugby league as well. Talk about their teams. So some interviews there. Um, and yeah, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, Google. Um, you can even click the little that way, the little QR code there if you want. That can take you to wherever you want to go to, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Um, yeah, so I've had I get some magnificent help from great sponsors of the podcast. The major sponsor, Jack's Pale Ale from Parramatta Leagues Club. It's a great drop. I know you've had one when you've been at Parramatta Leagues Club, and that's my match day beer at the Leaguesy. Shannon Cooney from the Merrick Property Group, great real estate agent. Bo Cook from Loan Market Penrith, great mortgage broker. The Stubby Club, Brightside Details and Ceramics. So if you want your car detail, contact them. Media partner Parramatta Times, and also new clothing sponsor as well, BTZD. So
Oh,
um, yeah, so hopefully maybe I'm not 100% sure when, but hopefully there might be some some sort of merchandise coming out later in the year as well. So I'm not too sure when, and yeah, but hopefully there's some merchandise coming out. So keep your eye out for that one. And yeah, really thank you for the opportunity.
No worries at all. And just fans out there that are watching our one, I know you've been absolutely bombarded with Paracate podcasts, League of Inches as well. We're out there. We've got our podcasts on all your favorite ways to listen to your podcast. I know Spotify is a big one for our ratings so far. We've got YouTube, we've got Facebook, and we've got Instagram as well. Or just type in League of Inches and it will find you. Thank you once again, guys. Enjoy. And please let me know, give us some feedback and give both pages a follow. It's muchly appreciated. Thank you.